JB in Canada. JB, welcome to the show. How can we help you tonight?
Hi. So sorry, I'm a little nervous. Should I just start in? I wanted to give some backstory before I kind of got to the advice portion.
Sure, we've got a little bit of time. Give us the Cliff Notes version. What's up?
All right. So, a couple months ago, I came out to like only my mom and my sister about possibly being transgender, and my mom, like she's accepting, but she's not, like, she just doesn't really understand what it means, I guess. And I have trouble trying to explain it to her, but also my sister kind of steered me towards Abigail Shrier and the podcast that she was on with Joe Rogan about her book on transgender, like, craze and
gosh. Okay.
Yeah. And
yeah.
I've talked to her about it since, and she still tries to tell me it's not transphobic. And I've watched videos on, like, from transgender people who say it is, and obviously they're biased because they are transgender, but, like, it's, I don't know.
But we should also be listening to the trans community when we're talking about trans identities. I hear what you're saying about how to present that idea, but I think it's always important to be talking to the people involved rather than talking about them.
Yeah, and, like, as far as I know, like, I mean, I haven't read the book, and I don't really care to, because I don't want to give her money.
Feels like the right call.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah. But I saw a video from somebody he said he was in the book, but he was never spoken to. He was spoken about in the book.
There were actually quite a few trans YouTubers and content creators who were used against their will in that book. So,
and
how are we moving into? Or is this something that you want to continue?
I didn't want to go on a whole tangent.
That's okay. Hey, we could vent about Abigail Shrier for a very long time on this show, and that'll take up the rest of the time. But I do want to make sure that we're getting to your question. Do you need advice on how to communicate with your family about this, or are you wondering if you even should?
Yeah, I mean, recently I've become, I guess, more solidified in my belief that I'm transgender, but also somehow less, because I know I want to come out at least as, like, they, them, not she, her, but sorry, I'm a little frazzled. My thoughts are...
That's okay.
It's a lot to balance. I guess I'd like to just sort of jump in and say that, when you're this close to something and when you're getting such, like, vitriolic and hateful messaging, not maybe directly from your mother, at least not from the way I'm hearing you describe it, but when you are butting up against that, I might encourage you to feel like the burden isn't on you to educate her. You can discuss yourself, you can describe yourself and share your journey, or not. That's certainly your choice. I don't know that you're obligated to walk her through any of those things. But what I'm hearing from you, and maybe just my guess without really knowing you, is that this is not a question that you feel equipped to answer from her in this exact moment. And that's okay, because you don't need to be expected to. If you are looking to answer your own questions while also wanting to, put good information out there and support the community writ large, then, great, good on you. But I want to take away this burden that you might be feeling, that it's your responsibility to educate the people in your lives. There are a couple of great YouTube videos or a couple of great books or whatever else that you might be able to point them towards and just say, look, my identity is my identity. I'm still working out exactly what that is, but it's not my job to teach you science. It's not my job to teach you culture. It's not my job to teach you history. Go out and read this book or watch this video and come back to me if you want, but don't expect me to explain this to you. There are plenty of other talented people that are more than happy to pick up the slack. And I hope you don't feel like you have to be both figuring out your identity, explaining your identity, defending your identity, all while still trying to defend the basic concept of trans people existing. That's just too much for one person to bear when it's so close to home.
Yeah. I mean, like, I've been trying to, like, I watch YouTube videos with my mom anyway, and when Elliot Page came out, I was watching a video on it, and she was there, so I was like, you want to watch this video with me? And she watched it. I don't know if she was that interested, but it was like, I don't know, just because, I mean, it's not at all that she's not accepting, she just doesn't understand it all, and like, it's hard for me to, I don't know. Yeah, no, I just.
Yeah, as a trans person, if that is
for her to understand even my perspective on it. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. I just meant to say that as a trans person, if that is an identity that you decide to take on and to wear yourself, I don't know that you need to be expected to also be a science educator. And that it is totally okay to just say, this is who I am, and here are my pronouns. Here's some details about who I am as a person. I'd love to have you in my life and have you get to know me. But it's not my job to debate with you about X and Y chromosomes. I don't need to have a degree in genetics in order to be trans. And I definitely don't need to teach you or give you a degree in genetics in order to be trans.
Yeah. I'm also still unsure myself, because I did actually recently find in an old journal that I was like writing about it like 5 years ago, but
and that's totally okay too, JB. I know a lot of the time, and we've talked a little bit in this conversation today about how mainstream media might present a community in a very one-dimensional way. There is a lot of talk. It's great that we're starting to talk about trans people in mainstream media. That's awesome. That's great. We did a good job with that. We need to go farther, because what we're seeing is a lot of people saying, oh, I knew exactly what I was when I was 3. And it's always been very clear to me. And this is the one direction that my life has gone. And I'm fully confident in what I am. And some people experience that, sure, but that wasn't my experience. And that isn't the experience of a lot of people, whether that's sexuality or gender or romantic preference. Any of this often is a very big concept you have to break down into smaller bites and just kind of chew on for a while. So the fact that you're not 100% sure is fine. And honestly, not at all strange. That is probably one of the biggest commonalities in the trans and non-binary community, is this concept of, what if I'm not? But what if I am? But what if I'm not? Like this back and forth.
Like back and forth every day.
No, that is a well-known thought process, not just something you're experiencing. It's something I've experienced, and I guarantee you, if you go to other trans and non-binary people, they will say the same thing. So bottom line here, I think Christy hit the nail on the head. You do not need a degree in genetics. You do not need to give someone else a degree in genetics in order to be trans.
Yeah.
You need space. You need
I can't hear you anymore.
Do this on your own time.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess also the one thing that I take away from Abigail Shrier that I don't think is like completely I don't know, not great. Anyway, is that like the confirmation bias? Because I'm like, I've been afraid to even like come out to anybody, because anybody else, I guess, because I don't want it to be like them confirming that, yeah, okay, that you say you are, so we'll agree, and then just enforce it. But also, like,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, I would encourage you to take your cues on trans identities from the trans community. Whatever that looks like for you. We have definitely mentioned How to Understand Your Gender by Alex Ifanetti on this show a number of times. And I think that may be a good place to start. But let me encourage you to be really checking your source on any of those kinds of pieces, and to be looking towards people that acknowledge the true and valid science. This is not a question that's up for debate for me. There might be some nuance to the way that our culture has been managing the greater information around trans identities, the way that we are taking that in and processing that as a culture and as a society. There's a lot of push and pull, a lot of things that we can debate, we can be looking at. But the question of, do trans people exist, is well and fully settled. You can ask that from any geneticist, from any linguist, from anybody who has any comprehension of gender politics or basic culture and society. This is a reality. This is well established. And to get into a mudslinging fight where you're trying to debate the nuances of these things with somebody who dismisses that, whether we're talking about their ideas through their books or their ideas coming out of the mouths of the people around us, I would strongly encourage you to opt out of those kinds of conversations, because I can hear the waver and the doubt in your voice. And I just want to really affirm for you that whether or not you are trans, that a lot of these ideas that you're being brought up against you are just not valid scientifically, culturally, or in any other way that matters.
Okay. Yeah. I feel like it's hard because they sound like they're so smart. But
Sure.
Anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you for calling.
We appreciate you giving us a call. This is a very brave thing to be talking about in this kind of format. And so I really want to praise you for taking that on, and just thank you for sharing yourself with us tonight.
Absolutely. And feel free to call back. We'd love to continue having this conversation with you. If you come across new ideas or new questions, we're here.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, JB.
Have a great night.
Oh my goodness. Did you see me almost go off? I almost went off. The idea that being trans is a result of confirmation bias, when your entire life, everyone around you is feeding into the confirmation bias that you're not, and you manage to extricate yourself from that and find yourself. And then they're like, oh no, if 3 people tell you you're valid, that's confirmation bias and you should get rid of it. Meanwhile, I'm straight and nobody has confirmed that for me. It's like, what? Why? All right.